Hello and welcome back to Primal Pod and Cast, brought to you by the Arc of E Network. My name is Noah, and once again I'm joined by my intrepid co-host, Mr. Mikey Chappell. Say hello, Mikey.
Hey, everybody.
We are back once again to discuss exactly what we expected, Colossaeus II. Not part 2. Just I dig it. I dig the Roman numerals. It's very classy. But yeah, as suspected and as much discussed in our previous episode, it's two different guys. It's definitely two different guys. As
we
confirmed,
were right.
As confirmed
totally
in the
right.
opening, 3 minutes of this, where we do get, the second Colossus, if you will, coming out of the ground. So as suspected, he can be transported by dude is what I'm thinking. So he could pretty much pop up anywhere, but it's kind of a tease because he doesn't, come across our characters again, but they've got enough to deal with. What an episode.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Tremendous.
Yeah. One of my favorites of the season.
Yeah.
Great. Just great.
Yeah.
Another great episode of Primal. Shocker. So big early chunk. They've done this, I feel like, very, very sparingly, but this was one of the most effective uses of it. They repeated animation.
Yes.
Like that montage of just the enemy changing, but the core, like, Spear comes in, riding on Fang's back. He's got the dual blades, takes out a couple dudes. Then we cut over to the Colossus just smashing people. And then we just see the repetition of this. And it's just like, oh my God, dude, they're just,
I'm glad you brought that up because that was kind of one of my favorite things. It was because normally you see that as just like a laziness tactic to just
normally that's reserved for early 60s cartoons and some early anime, or like Speed Racer loves to reuse
but the
frames,
use
for
of it
instance.
as a plot device, I think it was genius. Because at this point no one's going to accuse them of being lazy. No. But it's practical and it was very effective, and I thought it was great.
Yes, and you're just like the passage of time, which the show is so great at showing, but the little things of oh my God, dude. Okay, so you mentioned the tiny tiger in the previous episode, and wonder if that's going to be a thing. When she initially goes and picks it up, I was like, girl, don't hurt that tiger. But of course, then they unceremoniously murder the owner, the king, in front of her. And of course, I'm like, okay, that's fine. As long as the tiger's going to be okay. So she's just piling up this menagerie. She's got her dinosaur eggs. She's got her tiger, which is growing and growing and growing.
They're not eggs anymore.
Yep. Not at the end of this episode. Nope. They finally hatch just in the midst of all this other chaos and every other storyline converging. Yeah. That's of course the perfect moment to have to deal with two baby dinosaurs.
Brilliant show. Just hey, we think we got you on this end, and now here's a new plot device that you as a viewer have to deal with emotionally.
Yes. And to that point, probably the biggest revelation of this entire episode is the dynamic of the first Colossus, if you will, and that he has with the evil queen, empress, whatever we want to call her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it basically yet another reveal of why people fight and their motivation. And it's once you see that, can you feel he didn't want to smash that baby. He didn't want to.
Changes the character completely.
100%.
And now it aligns motivations with the protagonists we've been watching since season 1. So now all three of those characters are on the same page.
And they're very much in the same way as Spear and Fang. They're bound together now through this this gauntlet of war that they've been put through over the course of, again, what seems like a year of time could have spanned at this point. I feel easily.
We also got to that feudal Japan part that you were talking about.
Yes, just a little taste.
What we're saying is that every prediction that we had came true, and we're geniuses.
Yes, They're yeah, we definitely could be writing this, obviously.
Yeah.
Just
Put that
kidding.
on my resume.
100%. But yeah, Tartakovsky and company continue to just absolutely amaze me. What else in here stuck out to you? I mean, beyond just some fantastic imagery as always. In particular, dude, I don't know if it was just the sheer variety of new environments we were seeing,
Yeah.
new character designs, but yeah, it was just, I mean, the animation is always, exemplary and like really a standout. But something about this episode, I was just like, I don't know, dude. There's just, and I know he's talked about, they'll have different lead animators across the season. So it's like sometimes Spear looks a little different, like in the face, episode to episode. It's a slight, different variation because it's like, it's not always, they're not trying to adhere to this, like, oh, it has to be frame perfect every single time.
Yeah.
So I like those little subtle differences you get between whoever's doing the bulk of the animating for the given episode. And obviously the way they divide up seasons, I don't know. It feels like even more cinematic than it already has been.
It really does. And I think a lot of it had to do with Spear's emoting. There's a lot of like, he had a bunch of very specific moments that he had to just portray some sort of emotion. It's like the gentleness with Fang, like in the sympathy and the understanding, and then seeing Mira again in those final scenes, and then the immediate transition to, oh, I'm in Spear mode now, and I'm going to mess some stuff up.
Dude, okay, so Mira, in parallel to this, she's basically part of, I guess, kind of vaguely like a harem. I don't really know what I don't think we're exploring the sexual dynamics on Primal quite yet.
But it's highly implied.
But yeah, it's definitely there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get the, the dancers and everything. And then we get Mira's supposed to dance. She doesn't know what to do. And the queen steps up and then basically does a dance that culminates in a very a Spartan-esque 300 type of I'm gonna kick you off the top deck. And once you see the perspective of this from the outside later on when Spear is going to climb up, and it's like, oh, okay, that's like her main tower. She's just like chilling up there all the time, doing whatever. And yeah, not a great way to go, just plummeting to your death. But what are you gonna do? Okay. So yeah, there is the moment of communication where Spear, it was a little bit, I was like, guys, it's been a long time. Like it took you this long to devise an escape plan. Like, okay, right. Feeling it out, whatever. But anyways, well, I guess they get oh my god, dude, again, so much in this episode, I'm like losing track.
Yeah.
They keep having the repetition of them arriving on shores, just obliterating whoever. And that's that, making away with the spoils of war, etc. They arrive on the shore of do we really get a look at like what type of civilization this was supposed to be?
Nothing goes into
the depth. Peaceful one, if you will.
Oh, that really, one.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but I do like the fact that they kind of like brought up the African influence in it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was definitely there, like in some of the bangles and like stuff like that.
Yeah, that's something you rarely see portrayed in this kind of environment, because I think people are a bit afraid to go there as far as like the conquering thing because of the questionable nature of how stuff happens. But then just to get like
and also do we all of a sudden want to have Spear like slaughtering a bunch of black and like brown people? I don't know
exactly.
It's a little easier to stomach when it's just Vikings that we care about, but maybe it complicates things a little further. I don't know.
But I think it was just really smart world building to think that like this wasn't a surprise, like these people knew they were coming.
Yes, so obviously it's like
mitigate
their reputation precedes them, and it's like this is our form of communication essentially. It's like, what if we offer you and I'm sitting there going like, oh, like this is how civilizations evolve. It's like some people are like, hey, but we can do this for you. We don't have to fight. Like we'll give you some of what we have. We don't have to make a thing of it. And it makes
that sequence all the more painful.
So upsetting to watch. And you just, of course, the Colossus goes and is like, look, these people brought you fish. They brought you vegetables.
Yeah.
Like, can you just be satisfied with this? And she threatens the kid again, and he just has to go and do it. And that just hammered home for me again, where I'm like, he took no pleasure in that fight with Spear and Fang earlier. And so it's so hard to like hold any sort of grudge against him for what happened with the egg. I know. I just like to flip that on a dime, not where I was. It was more of I was just watching this tension point. I didn't have this bloodlust of like, oh, they got to get that guy. The person who now I am like, she's got to go is that queen. I was just like, she has got to go, dude. I do not like her. She's dangerous. She's evil. Like, we got to get her out of the equation.
The amount of storyboarding that must have gone into just this one episode is insane. Or even just to reveal the fact that, like, if you're a showrunner, you're like, this is where the story's going. And everybody going, that's a brilliant move.
Right.
Because it really is. You set up expectations, and then you totally dash them in this really subtle and terrifying sequence. And I mean, that's why I think the show is brilliant.
And again, that's a moment that I had to remind myself happened in this episode. And it's one of the most brilliant things in the whole series. Like,
all without dialogue.
Yes. And we have pretty much returned to like, even there's, you know, he still says Mira when he sees Mira, obviously. So back to the escape. Again, ignoring the fact that I think maybe they could have done this a couple months ago, whatever. Anyways, I fixed my train of thought. The whole reason that they're rewarded that night with all the extra meat is because, is it right after that? Is it when the Colossus goes in and slaughters the whole
village? It is.
So that's their reward essentially. And so because like Fang's getting a extra portion of meat and everything, Spear's able to manipulate the guy. He gets out and of course very smartly is like, no, Fang, you got to stay here. But Colossus, come help me like stealth kill all these guys. And he's like, not going to do it basically because they're still wary about like this alliance. But I like that. I think by the end of it, I mean, it's left on a cliffhanger of like, what's the choice going to be? But anyways, so Spear maneuvers out. I was kind of hoping for like a nice nighttime stealth, like kill a bunch of people sequence, but I did like that it was just, he's a little more cunning and just like maneuvers his way around. It's kind of cool. So he gets up there, sees Mira again, of course, and then like you said, immediately is into Spear mode. He gets to duel a little bit with her, and I thought her prowess as a fighter compared to him, like I bought through the animation, I bought that like she's quick, like she would be a formidable thing for him to fight because like as ferocious as he is, like she's slender, she's faster, like if they really have to go toe to toe, I don't know who would win, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And that's the first time
instincts too. It's like
and we've seen how absolutely ruthless she is. And my God.
Like while he was doing all that stuff, it was just this unspoken thing where it's like, okay, grab the important stuff, like the egg, like the babies and all that stuff, and just like get them out of there. Which is like it speaks a lot to the bond that they have, because then it was like this immediate teamwork. Like, okay, I trust that you're going to take care of the adversaries that are coming this way. While they're distracted, I'm going to take care of what's important and then help you out in the meantime.
Dude, and the pacing of all of this, where things are escalating, you're like, oh my God, they're trapped. Like, how are they going to get out of this? The eggs hatch, which causes the babies to scream, which Fang immediately is just, again, I'm like, you could have done this like months ago, girl. She just tears through the metal gate, tears up through the bow of the ship. And then, you know, she's caught in the midst of it. And then finally, the kind of where we leave things, right, is the Colossus shows up and it's like, my daughter's here, dinosaur eggs here, Spear, like everybody's kind of laid out in front of him. And it's like, what's he going to do? Who's he going to help? Like, because again, you're getting so worked up, like, dude, hell yeah, this escape's working. They're
Yep.
out of this. They're gonna, and then before you know it, like the eggs are snatched back out of her hand. They're both at spear point again, and you're just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah,
like
right.
this is hopeless. What the hell are
Yeah.
we gonna do?
This is the
And
first
then,
episode where I legitimately lost track of time. Like in the other ones,
oh,
there was like a lot of
absolutely,
tension, and I like kept thinking, okay, but it's been probably about 18 minutes, so like we're probably gonna get a like cliffhanger or something. And this one, I just forgot. There was like an entire suspension of that,
oh,
and
absolutely. And as soon as
uh,
it went to crash, I was just like,
yeah,
oh man, but I'm so jazzed. And
yeah.
as soon as it was over, I was just like, dude, what a great episode.
So
What a great week. This is going to be a
I
fun
watched it
one.
on Saturday, and my girlfriend
Hmm.
came in like 5 minutes before it was done, and she's like, "Oh, you're watching Primal?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is insane." And she's like, "Okay," and going about her stuff, and then the episode ended,
Yeah.
and I'd forgot that they're only like 20 something minutes, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then she came out and thought something was on fire. And
Right.
I was like, "Nope, nope,
It's just
just
a TV
really great
show.
television."
Yep.
I'm just in it.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. Great time. I mean, again, we're left on another cliffhanger. I don't know how much we want to speculate, but my hope is through sheer force of will and them all banding together, the four of them, and maybe these little maybe the T-Rex babies can be ankle biters. I don't know.
I
But I hope if they
hope
all
more than
band
anything that they
together,
are.
they can just take them down. But with our luck, I feel like the bigger Colossus is just going to like show up in the middle of that boat and like tear through the center of it.
So,
And, all hell's going to break loose.
speaking of Colossus, what format are you watching this on?
I'm watching it on HBO Max through my
Okay.
PS4 on my Sony flat screen that is about 15 years old. Uh, yeah, 1080, but not 4K.
Yeah. I was just curious as to what thing, but
Oh,
I'm glad
that
you
was probably
note
way
that though.
that was probably way too much,
It was
way more than you asked. I'm watching it on my television. Yes, I'm watching it on my television.
is the exact correct amount of information. But most of it is like I just want to know because I pulled up HBO and in the
Mhm.
description, the Colossus is how they refer to the ship that they're on.
Okay,
Yeah,
then
and I thought that was I don't know if that's just like a weird like intentional coincidence or
I
if that's what they wanted when
I
they
will
named an episode
say
Colossus, you
I
know?
had for most of these I have been reading the Primal wiki before we
Mm-hmm.
record just to refresh my memory if I watch the
Yeah.
episode like a few days removed. I haven't done that with these last two. So of course I'm sitting here going, "Oh, the Colossus." Like of course it's
Yeah,
the
but
big guy we're referring to, but I'm
no, I
like,
mean
yeah, no, it could
that's why I
have
was
been the ship, and
curious.
the ship makes sense because we've been
Yeah.
2 episodes on the ship.
Yeah, I mean that's
But
just why I was curious because like people watching this live on like Adult Swim don't have that like quote unquote privilege of information,
right.
you know. So I don't think I just stumbled on anything new. It was just like in the episode description, they were just like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
there.
I'm curious like if the HBO Max uh description is different from say like if you're on your digital cable watching it on Adult Swim and you do like the info guide or whatever, like
Yeah,
is that different too? I don't know.
this is a whole new medium that I have never thought about. Just like the like streaming service in which you consume this,
Yeah.
giving away
Well,
different
that's kind of, I
details.
mean, that's kind of what's fun about the show, whether you're doing it on a mass scale with like people on the Reddit or whatever, or you're just chatting with your one other friend that watches it, like we are.
Yeah,
Um, but it's parsing
yeah,
through like the symbols and like some of the stuff that's just glossed over, and because we don't have dialogue, it's like, oh, okay, well, do you think like this is referring to this thing, or like what do you want to call this
yeah,
guy or whatever, or this little civilization, and kind of
yeah,
like building your own narrative around it. It's like until the show like outright confirms or says like A, B,
yeah,
or C is this, then yeah, that's kind of half the fun is the
yeah.
speculation.
That's kind of
So
another point I didn't think about with a show with very limited dialogue is that like I know exactly what you're talking about,
yeah.
but yeah, no, that's wild.
Yeah. uh so yeah, I almost don't want to speculate too much. All I want to say is she's already lost two babies. and one unborn egg. Okay.
Yeah,
I need those two to be okay.
exactly.
That is the primary concern. But
Yeah,
this is just my devil's advocate, weird speculation. If they force it into some sort of thing where like Mira self sacrifices for the eggs, I would be devastated. If
yes,
they do something like that where it's like, I'm so invested in, yes, I want those
yeah.
babies to live, but if it's at the expense of one of our other leads, I all then I mean, what if they killed off Fang and then it's Spear
Yeah.
and Mira are left to raise these T-Rex babies?
It speaks to the level of show you're watching, where like you have, because watching it now, you realize that like even back in season one, those two baby dinosaur deaths were a long-term investment, right? So now we're like
Yes.
super invested in everything, and now whatever they do, the stakes are raised.
Mm-hmm.
It's I like I know we talked about Game of Thrones a little bit last week, but that's kind of why people got invested in Game of Thrones, right? You realize that
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
every character you love is not safe.
Mm-hmm.
So you keep watching because you don't have to worry, oh, they're the hero, they're going to stay. No, people leave at any given point,
Right.
and now I have to see this through. And I think it's a really good move, and that's why it's a great show, is because I'm invested in the motivations of every single character.
Yeah. I am I'm also very curious if we'll kind of wrap up uh this period of enslavement and this kind of storyline they've been on for the last two episodes, and we'll kind of put a definitive end on that and have like, oh, okay, going into the finale, it's like, oh, things have chilled out. Like you would think
Yeah,
we're going on to a new adventure. And just when things have calmed down, then the
yeah.
the big guy is reintroduced. But I don't know. I feel like we could be sitting here next week and going like, oh, that was a hell of a cliffhanger. Can't wait to see how this
Yep.
whole thing wraps up.
And
Because I really don't know what to expect. I'm just very, very excited for it. So
that's the best part
um
about it, right? It's like they set
oh
us up to not know what's happening,
yeah.
and that's in a good way.
One other thing I did want to bring up that I kind of had as a passing thought. So we had varying reactions to the primal theory, but part of the whole argument of that episode was very much like if you strip all of our humanity away, like eventually your primal core will take over, et cetera, et cetera. But what I feel like now, especially established through the enslaved Colossus, if that's what we're calling him, and his child, and that being the stakes and his motivation for everything, that's kind of been an established core running theme, is like why people fight the way they do or what they choose
Yeah,
to fight for. And I feel like it's this challenge to like, well, do you is is Spear this way because it's, it's in his nature, or is it a thing that at pretty much every single turn he's been motivated to fight as viciously and
yeah,
terrifyingly as he has, because he has genuine emotional human
yeah,
stakes that go
yeah,
beyond some primal instinct but are more motivated by relationships and all of
yeah,
that. So I feel like showing more and more dimensionality to him, and again, decision making, little tiny things like, oh, I'm out of my cell, but like I have the presence of mind to not bring
yeah,
out the giant dinosaur and alert everybody right now. Again,
yeah,
shit you would just not think a caveman would be smart enough
yeah.
not to do.
And I
But
think like they kind of set us up for that in just like implying that Spear was like some type of quote unquote caveman character. But every move he's made throughout every season has been like justly motivated and relatively intelligent. Or like he makes decision, like I didn't notice this until like the prison break, but then I thought about it. I'm like every yeah, he gets in scraps and he crushes it or whatever. But every single time he's gone up against something, he does have to formulate some sort of plan that he innately pulls off.
Yeah.
So there's
even if it is
like,
him sometimes literally like beating his head against a rock until he realizes like this isn't working. Okay, I gotta try this thing. Because there's definitely sequences like that. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah. No, and that's the thing too, is like sometimes he just knows, oh, I'm strong enough to beat this amount of foes,
Yeah.
and like he doesn't rush into things like you think instinctually he would.
Mm-hmm.
There, like every time something happens, because either I have to do this or there's a reason I'm doing this. So I don't think there's really been any example where he just blindly just starts fighting anybody. So like there's a degree of intelligence we can assume about him at this point, which is kind of incredible.
Yeah.
And
Not
again,
something
they portrayed that,
yeah.
and he's uttered like one word in infinite amount of shouts the entire time. Like
Yes.
there's been no first person exposition. It's all just been like, oh, like, and I feel like as the episodes progress, I still learn more about how these characters think and interact and what motivates them, all without them saying anything.
Yeah, it's magic, dude. It's the magic of fucking animation. I love it so much. All right. That's a great place to leave our Primal discussion, but I know you're watching House of the Dragon. I still have not touched it, but I did watch the first 2 episodes of The Rings of Power.
That's actually
on Amazon.
What I'm about to do when we're
okay.
done.
Well, I will not skew your viewing experience with what I thought of it. All I will say is, I will say this. If you finish the pilot and feel like, all right, I don't know, if you're a little iffy, I think there's a very good reason that they released 2 at the same time. I think it's very purposeful to watch them together. Okay, that's not a spoiler. I watched the first one and I was genuinely like, I don't know how I feel about this yet. Like, could be good, could be terrible. I don't know. I'm kind of liking the vibes of this, but I just don't know. And then I watched the second one like 2 days later, and I was like, I'm very excited to watch the rest of the show. I went and re-downloaded Shadows of War, the from a couple years ago for my PS4. I'm probably going to rewatch the trilogy like very, very soon. I'm back in the headspace immediately. Just purely like visually speaking, it scratches that itch for sure. We'll talk more in depth on that next week, obviously. Some other ones I'll run past you just because I have no other venue to do this right now. I will say for people that are kind of, if you will, main feed listeners on here who are wondering where Gavin is, he's alive. He is around, and we will we'll be back with a new 2x2 very, very soon. We just recently wrapped recording on all of our Summers in the ER episodes. Those are all going to be up on Patreon by the end of this week that you're hearing this. If you want to go over to patreon.com/thearkofe and subscribe, you can listen to those episodes. They're a good time. Anyways, that's what Gavin has been spending his time doing most of the summer. So, okay, he will be back. I just wanted to let people know that. But anyways, in his stead, since I have no other venue right now to talk about movies or TV, and I was sick this weekend, happy Labor Day to me, I caught up on a bunch of stuff. So I watched 2. I don't know if you've seen either of these. I watched 2.5+ hour. Hello, dog.
That's Luna.
Dude, that's so crazy. She like, as I acknowledged her head just like zipped back behind, from my perspective, zipped back behind your chair. So it just looked like she disappeared out of nowhere. Anyways, I watched 2.5+ hour films that were based on true stories, directed by auteurs. One came out last year, one came out this year. They were both heavily publicized for a lot of different elements. I don't know why I'm talking around it. I finally caught up with House of Gucci, the Ridley Scott movie from last year. And I also watched Elvis, which is now on HBO Max. Have you seen either of these films?
I have not watched House of Gucci because it was just lower on the list than all the other movies I still have yet to catch. Because, again, listeners, I'm in grad school right now, and it's
Gucci is not
wild.
a priority for me, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But
totally understandable.
I did find a window of time. Like
You
me and my
watched
girlfriend
Elvis?
had, yeah, we had one day, like in this, like she does theater and she's a resident artist in this local theater company called Theater Lab Dayton. So if she's not acting into performance, she's probably set designing or costumes or something. She's brilliant.
Nice.
But with the two of our like school, I have the bands, and then she has all that stuff. Like the time that we get to spend together is usually spent doing nothing, watching something we've already seen before and not thinking.
Right.
We finally found a weekend where we had time to like go catch a movie. And the only thing
so you
playing,
you saw it properly on the big screen.
I saw it. I saw it in theaters, and we went to a 10 a.m. matinee at a local independent movie theater that we love called the Neon, Dayton. Shout out to the Neon.
Nice.
And we thought that we were going to be the only people there.
Packed house, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Not necessarily packed, but we were the youngest people by like 30 years, which I'm getting older now, so that's like saying something.
Right.
And we're both big Baz Luhrmann fans, and we saw the people walking into these movie about Elvis, and I immediately thought, they are not going to like this.
And right? What was the general consensus of that audience from the vibe in the room? What do you think?
The performances, I personally think Austin Butler did a great job just like going all in, doing what he had to do. The performances were awesome. Like, the
performances in the movie are like kind of undeniable, even though I think a huge portion of them are original recording. I don't know. I didn't go into too much of the behind the scenes, but I guess a lot of the earlier stuff, it is Austin Butler doing some of the live singing. Yeah. Not that it really, everything in that movie is such a cacophony of sound, the entire time. But anyways, continue. Walk me through it. But
the tension that happened in the moments between performances in the theater was palpable. Because I think people were expecting like another just generic biopic. Everybody showed up to that theater ready to see like Ray.
Well, here's my thing though. I agree, but this kind of to me felt like Baz Luhrmann's Ray or Walk the Line.
That's exactly what it was.
But here's what I wanted, dude. I still don't know how to gauge. I don't know if you were. Are you very positive on it? Was it more like it was entertaining? What was your overall take?
I didn't feel like I wasted my money. I'm glad but I also knew what I was going into.
Do you think it is one of his that you will rewatch in the same way that you would say maybe Romeo plus Juliet or Moulin Rouge?
Not to that level.
Okay.
No.
Or even Gatsby, I would say, is maybe a little more rewatchable. My thing with this, it was exhausting, which I expected. Okay. And I watched it at home. It's on HBO Max now. It's a good time to talk about it, I guess, for everybody who didn't catch it in the theater. I was raised on Elvis. I'm very much a diehard. I used to dress up as him as a little kid. Like I've seen a remarkable amount of the movies, like his Hollywood period. I've seen all of these concerts that are recreated in the movie. I've seen the original footage. Like my mom owns all of these on VHS. She saw him twice when he was alive. He's a big part of my life. So obviously I have when I hear Baz Luhrmann's doing it, I'm like, all right, this is gonna be fucking wild. Like I'm intrigued. But then I start hearing more details in the build up to this, and it's like, okay. Tom Hanks like campaigned for the role of Colonel Tom Parker. Like he really wanted to do this. He wanted to put on this makeup and that accent and go out and do this movie. I think it is inarguably the worst performance of Tom Hanks's career. Like shockingly bad.
Did you see Larry Crown?
I did not watch Larry Crown. That's him directing himself too.
Yeah,
that is
you should watch Larry Crown and watch Larry
reassess
Crown this week and then,
reassess.
But I do see where you're coming
Mikey,
from.
I'm gonna be very honest with you. I'm not gonna watch Larry Crown. Some people do that. I'm gonna put it on my list. I'm never gonna watch Larry Crown. I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
Understood.
That
And
hey, hey, that thing you do, good movie though. So
yeah,
he's a capable director.
yeah, like you're missing nothing from that film, but at the same time, I see where you're coming from.
And part of my issue beyond that performance is the framing of the whole movie from the
Yeah,
perspective of Colonel Tom Parker as the
yeah,
narrator and ostensibly main character was just fucking baffling to me, dude.
yeah,
Also, again, the choices, the decision making throughout, where I'm
yeah,
just like the things we chose to gloss over versus the things we chose to try and highlight.
yeah,
Where it's like we want to acknowledge how much black music played a role in his music and him being the bridge between white and black culture and like bringing this into the mainstream. We want to acknowledge that, but beyond like I believe like 2 minute scene with BB King, there
yeah.
are no black characters in
No,
this 2.5 hour movie that have
my
any sort of like extended dialogue or perspective on anything that's going on.
nope.
They're almost fetishized in the flashbacks. It was very
Yeah,
fucking weird. But again, I'm also sitting here going like, yeah, no, but this is how Baz Luhrmann, crazy Australian, sees American culture and the cult of
yeah,
Elvis and all of it.
yeah,
And that's my thing is I'm like, then make that crazy fucking wild ass movie, dude.
yeah,
Don't give me the sanitized, like almost watered down, like, dude, there are scenes where I'm like, it's Walk Hard, like without irony. He's just
yeah.
doing Dewey Cox
Walk,
right now. But
yeah.
like, does he
Which
get
was
that
a
it's like,
way better movie.
I mean, it's an American masterpiece. It's one of the
Yeah,
best comedies of the
I
last
could
like
talk about
20
Walk
years,
Hard.
I would
That's a
say.
whole other podcast we'll have to get together and do. It's just I
Dude,
got 10 episodes of Walk Hard in me, dude.
and it's one of those where it's like, yeah, in the wake of that movie, like, are you allowed to make a biopic in the same way ever again?
Yeah,
And as heightened and visually like
yeah,
stimulating as the movie was, and I never lost interest in like just the sheer batshit craziness
yeah,
of the visuals. I was like,
yeah.
the dude's still like one of the most compelling visual filmmakers out there. He's a
Yes.
total original, but I just wanted
Yeah.
the movie to like be more balls out, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, in its narrative beyond just its style.
He's so visual and such a good like fictitious storyteller that I don't think they should have trusted him with a non-fiction
I'm shocked that they
thing.
did. I'm
Yeah,
shocked that
that
he got
like
to make this movie on this scale, the kind of
yeah,
we're going to
it's
make the definitive representation of Elvis for modern audiences. It's the
yep,
first time, like, really since Kurt Russell in '79, the John Carpenter TV
yep.
movie, has really tackled playing him.
Yeah.
And
It's
again, like I think Austin Butler goes far beyond. Like I don't know how you feel about Bohemian Rhapsody. I hate that movie. I'm not a Rami Malek fan, and my big issue with
yeah,
it is pure caricature. It's not.
yeah,
It's just an imitation. Like
yeah,
he's lip syncing everything. He's got
yeah.
the process. He's like leaning into the accent so much. I think it's one of the worst best actor wins in recent history. That's just my personal opinion. If you dug the movie, I'm not here to hate on you, but I
I
thought,
didn't watch it because I was not ready to watch another biopic because music biopics I
dude,
don't like.
it commits
I
all the sins.
I really
It's
don't like it
literally
because, like, again, I'll watch Dewey Cox and just have the exact same experience, but a lot more fun with it.
yes,
You know, like
and it gets
it's
them all in there. Like it
yeah,
covers the entire gamut. And in an hour
exactly.
and a half, like, why do you need to sit through
Yeah,
a 2.5 hour one of these movies?
yeah,
Um, but yeah, dude, I don't regret watching it. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's super entertaining. I do think it is
yeah,
kind of glorious trash. I think the
yeah,
movie's kind of hamstrung by the Tom Hanks of it all
yeah,
because I think again, yeah, Austin Butler's really doing something there, fully commits, like he's in it. But I also
yeah,
feel like the nature of the filmmaking and that script don't ever let that character become three-dimensional in any way. But that's also not the aim of the movie. Like I get
yeah,
that. The movie's
yeah,
looking at him as this like otherworldly, like
like a
heightened figure.
product, you know, like
Yes. But I also don't think it fully nails that narrative that it's trying to tell of like this corruption of this like beautiful innocent. And it's like, if it weren't for Tom Parker, like ruined everything. And I was just like, he's such an obvious villain that like the scene where he's having, it's very early where he's getting them to sign the initial contract or whatever. You're just like, any like person who was actually existing in this scene, if a person was acting this way in front of you, it'd be like, this guy's very shady and full of shit. I don't think we should do this. He's a weird character. I don't trust him.
Exactly.
But yet at every turn, it's just like, oh yeah, but it's Tom Hanks, right? It's just so weird, dude.
There's no room for a twist in Tom Hanks being America's sweetheart. It's really hard to buy him as a villain. Sans lady killers, but like
and I mean Road to Perdition, right, is always the example people go for, but that's like, you know, villain with a heart of gold sort of thing. So but yeah, just bizarre to me that he was so amped on playing the role though. Like again, everything you hear was just like, oh, I've always wanted to play Colonel Tom Parker. I'm like, what does that say about you, Tom?
I don't know. I feel like it was just probably just an extension of like, you know, as a creative, I do like to challenge myself. So I feel like he's probably a huge Elvis fan and would have loved to tackle something like that. But, you know, I'm such a huge Tom Hanks fan that it's like hard for me to, I can't picture like who else would have done really well. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any.
I mean, the obvious answer is Giamatti.
Oh, like,
Giamatti is like
he would have crushed that.
Just leaning into the Southern accent, like, dude, he would have had a ball, and it would have been totally believable.
Do you watch Billions?
I have attempted to like watch Billions, and then I always get sidetracked with other things. I've never made it past the first season, but I do love Giamatti, and he is very good in what I've seen of the show.
If you make it to the end of the first season and don't want to watch the second one, I will pay you $50.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then isn't it just a Showtime show that goes on for like 3 or 4 seasons longer than it needs to? And
actually, so there was, I think the perception was made for that because, you know, the 2 seasons ago,
Homeland,
Dexter, exactly.
Do I need to go on? California?
No, you don't. But I see
Ray Donovan. Continue. Sorry.
They lost their lead. They lost like the guy that like
Damian Lewis.
Up against who Damian Lewis did a great job in that too. But
that's my other big issue is I've never gotten it. I don't get the Damian Lewis thing. I really don't.
Lieutenant Winters? Not at all.
Dude, I will give him Band of Brothers. But I struggle to come up with another one where I'm not like, why was he Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Perfect example. I was like, really? Damian Lewis is Steve McQueen. Yeah. This is who you want. I'm like, I know it's only one scene, but Damian Lewis. Okay. All right.
One line the entire time. But he wasn't Lieutenant Winters. Who was he in Band Brothers?
I know he was. Now. I mean, he was the lead.
No, he was
basically the lead. Yeah, it's Winters. I think it's Winters.
Yeah. So when he left, they got.
It's so bad with names.
Corey Stoll. So Corey Stoll becomes.
This is my superpower, by the way. Is I know details about shows that I don't even watch because that's how broken my brain is for podcast and TV and all of it swirling together. Where I'm like, I just know that he's taken over and that Damian Lewis isn't on the show. But that's all good, dude. I always have the name in my back pocket. Yeah.
Right. There you go. But he's actually doing a great job. And I feel like I'm one of 6 people still watching that show. But
my boss is tapped out on it this season.
Yeah. The storyline dynamics I think are interesting, but that could just be I'm kind of starved right now for entertainment.
I don't bring this up because they need to be compared, because I actually, after watching some of Billions, I realized I was like, oh, I don't know why people were even comparing these to begin with. But do you watch Succession?
Yes.
Okay. And are you all okay?
I'm all caught up.
I mean, and again, not that they need to be compared, because again, I think they are very different shows, but we can agree that like Succession is far superior, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get on that train.
That is
But I think
that is, I
I
think,
just think
inarguably like the most well written and executed show currently on
yeah,
television. Like
yeah,
the dialogue and the way they shoot literally office scenes, and they feel like they're action sequences in a Michael Bay or a Michael Mann movie. Like that level of tension, and you're like, it's people talking in rooms, and
yeah,
I'm like, oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You should
Um,
go rewatch Friday Night Lights then.
oh, for sure. I
It
love that
totally
show.
happens. I just finished season 4. I don't think I ever got like past season 3 when I was a kid, and now it's just like a comfort thing because I'm just
Oh
like,
yeah,
all right,
man.
whatever. It's like football, but now I'm in it, and it's wild. But yeah, I think I like those things where like a lot of the drama is hinged on the story, not so much what's happening on screen. So like
Yeah.
there are these like unseen stakes that characters like watching. I love watching an actor have to react to something that I can't relate to or see. And
Hmm.
like that's like a gauge of how well they project the human experience, like, oh snap, there's a lot of stuff happening. I'm not even personally involved, but I want this to work out, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I like Billions, because I can never relate to the problems I go through. And like also the argument against Billions is like a lot of the stuff seems really just like pushed and contrived. Like I read a decent amount of books, and everything in Billions is kind of like handpicked from things like famous food writers have written
Hmm.
about. And it's just like there's a perfect in one of the scenes in the later seasons of Billions, there's like this scene where they're at this like really expensive meal that like nobody can afford. It's supposed to be a secret, but it was just like hand picked from Anthony Bourdain's second book,
Uh-huh.
like scene by scene, line by line. And I don't know if it was an homage or they just stole it, but I almost stopped at that point. But like the greater storyline still kept me intact. So like
Right.
if you push through some of the stuff, you're like, all right, that's kind of stupid. There's more stakes involved. But Succession is a way better portrayal of rich people
Of
problems.
rich assholes, yes.
Yep.
Um, oh my god. Uh okay, I one more movie recommendation if you're looking for something spooky. So again, House of Gucci I actually had a great time with. It's on Amazon Prime. Um, I like a big long, like, dude, it talk about capital A acting by
Yeah.
everybody involved. I had a good time, dude. Some of the best Pacino yelling in years.
Yes.
Jared Leto, who I mostly find insufferable, is like, you definitely can't take your eyes off him in that crazy
Yeah.
fat suit doing
Yeah.
like the weirdest accent ever. Adam Driver's maybe the best actor of his generation, so there's that.
Yeah.
And I thought Lady Gaga was great in it. So
Yeah. I mean, Lady Gaga is
um
so understated in everything I've seen her in. Like,
she's going for it in this one, but she's
yeah.
commit. A lot of people were like harshing on the accent, I guess, based on the trailer and stuff. Seeing
Yeah.
like the full scope of the performance
Yeah.
and seeing it in the movie, I'm like, it doesn't like, no, it doesn't. It's not as off. Like 5 minutes into it, you're like, that's what she sounds like. Okay, cool, moving on.
Yeah.
And I thought she was quite good in it. I enjoyed it.
As
It
long as
would
it's
not have
consistent,
cracked my top 10 last year or anything, but I, I didn't regret checking it out. It's Ridley Scott, dude. I mean, not even one
Yeah.
of my like top 50 favorite directors, but like, dude knows how to make a movie. I
Yeah.
will say that. So, anyway, so I did like Gucci, Elvis, not quite as much. But a movie I will hugely advocate for. If you have a Shutter subscription, it's available free on there right now, but it's rentable on all your other VOD stuff. It's called Watcher
Yeah. I
from
use my
earlier this
girlfriend,
year.
so I've got it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'll check it out.
it's called Watcher. Stars Micah Monroe. You would know her from It Follows and The
Yep.
Guest. But yeah,
Yeah.
I believe a first time female director, might be her second feature. I forget. Uh, Really, really good. I don't want to tell you too much about it, but it's a good, easier way into the spooky season as well. Nice
Yeah.
little slow burn horror. Uh, Definitely some Hitchcock elements, and also reminded me a lot of like early Argento movies where there's something going on in the background of the city, that's not really at
Yeah.
play with our main character, but then you're kind of like, wait, should we be looking over, like, should we be
Right.
checking out this? Yeah. Yeah, so without spoiling too much, check that out. Just a great tight little thriller, super satisfying. I thought it was like very, very effective. Got super creeped out, me and my girlfriend last night. So
Yeah.
yeah, highly recommend Watcher, which is available on Shudder. That's pretty much it for me. I will remind people I make music under the moniker nARK. That's lowercase n, capital ARK. My latest album called Flowerhead came out this past Friday. Thank you to anybody who has checked it out thus far.
Personal
And
testimony, I listened to it while I was doing a bunch of analytics coding, and spot on.
it
It was
helped
awesome.
pass the time.
It
That's
was very, the vibes were on point. It was very well mixed. Everything sat really nicely from a audio file. And yeah, it sounded great. And it's awesome. So you guys should definitely check that
Thank you,
out.
man. And I will be playing some tracks from said album at my first ever live show, where I will be in support of Mr. Will Rowe and his friend Bo Douglas. They're playing at Elliott Borough Mini Bar September 10th. That's here in Charleston. If you're a Charleston listener, Elliott Borough Mini Bar 7 to 10 on September 10th. I'll be on somewhere in the midst of there. I'm not opening, thankfully. I'm just buried in the midst of the set list. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so if you want to come hear some of those tunes and some cool on the spot improvs where I just make beats on the spot, we're gonna try that too, and hopefully not embarrass myself. So yeah. Anything you want to plug, sir, before we wrap out?
Nothing too much. We're going to the studio this Saturday to see what happens. You might hear from that soon, depending on how quickly it gets mixed. We'll figure it out. But we do have some stuff on the horizon. Also, if you are listening to this podcast and do like the show Primal and have not gone back and watched like OG season 1 Dexter's Lab, go do that, because there are a bunch of parallels that you will notice, and it's gonna just make the entire show better.
The touchstones that run through the man's career are definitely something to try, and that's the thing that allows people to have all these crazy fan theories right now relating to Primal.
Yep.
But I was kind of in the midst of a Samurai Jack rewatch a couple months back, and I forget what I got sidetracked by, but I've been thinking about dipping back into that. That'll probably be my first order of business as soon as Primal ends, honestly. So yeah. All right. Well, those are our recommendations, and we are very excited to rejoin you next week to talk. I don't know what the episode's going to be called, so we'll figure it out then. But until then, I have been Noah.
Still Mikey.
And this has been Primal Pod and Cast. Thank you for listening.